Hi, my name is Axel Williams, and today I'd like to introduce an assessment tool I've developed for the sport of boxing. I'm a teacher by profession and a boxer as a hobby and as a passion of mine. And I've been hoping to marry these two fields together um, for the purpose of learning to box better and helping other people how to box better. Today this will be the first video in a series um, trying to communicate the purpose and the value behind this assessment tool and how it links to a curriculum for boxing. Let's get started. The purpose of this video is to allow you to learn how you can use this tool to assess boxers, including yourself. There might be other boxers as well. And also to get an idea of what the different uses and purposes for this tool are. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to use the tool to assess boxers, and you'll also understand the different purposes and uses of the assessment tool, how it links to teaching and learning new boxing skills. By the end of this video, you will have, with me, assessed a boxer using the assessment tool. You also have a homework task where you'll be asked to assess a boxer yourself. More on that towards the end of the video. Just to get you, just to begin, this is what the assessment tool actually looks like. I'm going to go through and explain what each of these different boxes means. It does look a little bit daunting and possibly a little bit confusing at a first glance, but hopefully after the explanation, it'll make sense. This first square, F4 point, basic offense, highlighted down the bottom with the arrow. This is known as a capability. We're going up from the bottom up with this assessment tool to try and explain how it all works. I wanted to use this tool to assess the capabilities of boxers, of the boxer who I might be training, myself as a boxer, or other boxers that I might be observing. One capability that a boxer needs to show, just as an example, is they need to be able to show they have fundamental knowledge of basic offense. To go further, we can look at indicators. These are different aspects of offense that indicate to me that that boxer has a working knowledge of basic offense. They're capable in using offense in a boxing match. So, to have an idea, different things that might indicate to me that the boxer is capable would be their ability to throw straight punches, hooks, uppercuts, their ability to attack the body, and also their ability to throw combinations. As we go further up, we can see that there are specific criteria that break down for me the ability that boxer has in the indicator that I'm assessing them in. So for instance, a boxer at a novice level might be throwing their lead and rear hand straights directly to the intended target. However, an advanced beginner knows that they should be returning their hands directly back to the face after they've thrown a straight punch. As we go further up, we can see that an intermediate boxer will step with the lead straight. They might also pivot their rear foot and rotate the hip or the shoulder while they're throwing the rear straight. And finally, an expert boxer might move away from traditional technique and vary the origin of their punches. An example of this could be them throwing a flick jab from the waist. As was kind of touched on in the last point, each of these quality criteria aligned to particular levels. This is to give me an idea of the progress that a boxer that I'm assessing has made so far, and gives me an idea of what they should be aiming to achieve in the future. Overall, this assessment tool works together to create a kind of map of different skills that the boxer must learn. We can use this to figure out where a boxer is in their development by marking them against this assessment tool or rubric, which is what we would call it in education theory. And from there we can start to think about what skills need to be learned by the boxer and how we can approach actually teaching those skills. To show you how we actually mark boxers against the skill rubric, I'm going to show you some clips today from 3 different boxers. One is a boxer probably not very well known, except for being a bit of a joke on YouTube, is a man by the name of Brian Sutherland. We'll also be looking a little bit later at Andre Ward and a little bit from Floyd Mayweather as well. Let's watch the clip.
To my right, wearing the blue trunks, white trim, he weighs 177 pounds. He is making his professional debut from Shelby, North Carolina, Brian Sutherland.
Sutherland from Shelby, North Carolina, in the blue trunks. Sutherland from Shelby, North Carolina. Sutherland from Shelby, North Carolina.
Alright, just from looking at Brian Sutherland's technique, we can see that he's really got no idea what he's doing in a boxing ring. He doesn't belong there at all. He looks kind of more like a kangaroo or a cat trying to throw straight punches. Just for the purpose of an example of how we mark a boxer against the rubric, we're going to focus on just one indicator today. That's indicator F4.1, which is straight punching. We can see that Brian Sutherland isn't really able to even fulfill that first criteria at the novice level, which is to throw the lead or the rear hand straight directly to the intended target. Instead, he's throwing it in a kind of a strange arc, more of a slapping motion than a straight line. Therefore, we can see that he's not actually on the progression so far. He's making errors, and that indicates to us as a teacher, or if we're making that mistake ourselves, that is an error that needs to be corrected. Let's just finish off watching Brian Sutherland getting KO'd. Poor fellow really didn't belong in a boxing match.
Britain turned pro with a third-round knockout over Aaron Nance last November and gets the right hand, and that stuns. Brian Sutherland is down.
The next boxer we're going to be watching today is Andre Ward. Andre Ward, as many of you would know, is regarded in one of the top 5 pound-for-pound boxers today. And a part of that is his impeccable boxing technique. We're going to be, again, focusing on mostly the straight punches. And so just have a look at the clip and notice how he's able to throw the left jab and the rear hand straight.
That was a lovely shot, picked beautifully there. Little dip down, bang, beautiful punch.
Paul Smith, still there. No case for him winning a round, no case for him sharing a round, but doggedly plugging away, sticking to the plan, hoping that the opening will come. Well, you could see it in his eyes on his stool in that last round. It's starting to dawn on him. That opportunity, you know, it might not come. And he's got another 3 rounds of this after this. And he's got another 3.
Okay, now just from watching this short combination a few times, we can see that Andre Ward is throwing technically correct straight punches. As he's throwing the left hand, the lead hand is aimed directly at the target. His left shoulder is up protecting his chin, and when he throws his rear hand, it comes across with a hip rotation. We can't see his feet, but he's most likely pivoting that rear foot slightly, and the right shoulder is also protecting the chin as it comes across. So based on this, we know that Andre Ward is demonstrating at least intermediate skill here. Throwing the lead straight and the rear straight is something that we learn pretty early on in boxing, but it's important to get the technique correct. Of course, we could rank Andre Ward a little higher than an intermediate, but the point is that this particular skill is something an intermediate boxer should know how to do. And Andre Ward is very obviously able to do that. To finish off with our analysis, we're going to look a little bit at Floyd Mayweather, one of the most technically correct and capable boxers in recent memory, but also a boxer who, because of his incredible athleticism and his knowledge of boxing principles, was able to get away with doing things in an unorthodox manner, or sometimes not to a conventional standard. Let's have a quick look.
In the second, as Mayweather pops off a couple. In the second, as Mayweather pops off a couple. In the second, as Mayweather pops off a couple. In the second, as Mayweather pops off a couple. Keys, and he's going to need to try and throw that more. Hence, it forces Floyd to have to react. Keys, and he's going to need to try and throw that. Keys, and he's going to need to try and throw that. Keys, and he's going to need to try and throw that.
Okay. Now, from looking at Floyd's ability to land the jab, we can see that it's mostly a technically correct punch, but there are some things that are slightly unorthodox. For example, once somebody throws the left jab, the hand should be returning to the chin or near to the chin. And instead, Floyd's left hand is returning to somewhere more close to a chest level. Still, he's able to, there is a purpose behind this, in that he's possibly inviting the right hand response from Canelo for a counterpunch. This is pretty advanced and not something that a novice boxer like Brian Sutherland should be attempting to do. Instead, they should just be learning to throw a technically correct jab. We're going to look again now at Floyd's use of the right hand to get another idea of why we're looking at these specific differences here. Specific details.
That's why it's 6-1 in rounds. That's why it's 6-1 in rounds. That's why it's 6-1 in rounds. And he used his jab.
Here we can see how Floyd has, again, thrown the right hand slightly technically different than is prescribed in the boxing textbooks, so to say. Instead of having his shoulder close next to his chin, he's actually created space between his chin and the right shoulder to allow Canelo's punch to pass through. This is important that he's also sort of slightly changed the trajectory or the angle of the right straight, making it ever so slightly more like a hook, being able to land the counterpunch effectively. It's these slight details that show us that not only has Floyd learnt the correct technique, but he's able to manipulate the technique to serve different purposes. We'll continue with this clip.
Very effectively, then the straight. Nice, and what we have had though are some interesting rounds of big puncher. Right hand fighter.
We can see from Floyd landing this 1-2 combination that he's able to throw, as well as adapting the right hand slightly by changing the trajectory or positioning his shoulder differently, he's still able to throw an incredibly correct right hand 1-2 combination when needed. Floyd is able to vary the origin angle of straight punches to exploit opponent vulnerabilities. He's he's just throwing his straight punches slightly technically different, or not incorrect, but in something that deviates from the textbook standard. But there is a purpose behind it. It's not the same as Brian Sutherland throwing punches in a technically incorrect manner. The point being here that we can place Floyd at an expert level in the straight punching category because of his ability to adapt the punch in different contexts, throwing a flick jab here, or looping the right hand very slightly to use it in a counter punching situation. This is kind of like, and I'm deviating from boxing here a little bit. This can be like art in a way. On the right, we see a painting by Pablo Picasso, but many people wouldn't realize that the picture on the left is also a drawing by Pablo Picasso, drawn when he was 14. This picture shows us an ability to a real mastery of the fundamental principles of draftsmanship. You can see that the torso is drawn with correct human proportions, that there is a constant light source coming from the top left of the picture, which is casting shadow over the rib cage of the torso and in other places like underneath the bench. Whereas in the right picture, Pablo Picasso was able to completely flaunt conventional wisdom to achieve a different sort of purpose. The point being here, or the principle I want to communicate here, is that like in art, in boxing, we must learn the fundamentals before we deviate from them for our own purposes or our own explorations. So now that I've given you an example of how to mark a boxer against the rubric, I just want to show you what it would look like if we continue this process against all of the different skills that have been described by the assessment tool that I've developed. This is actually an assessment, a copy or an image of an assessment I've made on myself. Here, the green boxes represent skills that I feel that I've already learned. I've analyzed a sparring video of me and a few of my older fights, and I was able to demonstrate these skills that I've highlighted with green in these videos. However, the yellow boxes, they show me I wasn't able to demonstrate those in the videos that I assessed. So the yellow boxes are a way for me to indicate which skills I need to be learning next. This is really useful because when I next go into the gym, I can look at this document and I can pick out one square and I can think, this is something I want to work on with my sparring partner or with my coach, and it just helps me to focus my attention to a specific learning goal. You might also notice that I've highlighted one of the levels in red. If you count all of these green boxes together, I've given myself a score, I think, of about 36. This means that I'm at a generally competent level of boxing myself. And this gives me an idea of where I might stand against other boxers who I could be possibly competing against or training with in the future. So now that you've got an idea of how the assessment tool works, I just want to go through some of the reasons why this could be useful, and also some of the purposes of the tool, because there are really some different purposes or utilities to this assessment tool. First and foremost, this assessment tool allows us to determine two key pieces of information, that being the current capabilities of a boxer that we're observing. That might be one of our favorite fighters if we're a boxing fan. It could be a boxer that we're training if we're a boxing coach. Or it could even be ourselves if we're giving ourselves some feedback or some self-assessment. We also are able to determine the skills of the boxer the skills the boxer is still learning or not yet able to do. So these are the boxer's learning goals, what they need to learn in order to progress. The utility in having each skill written in one of those small white boxes is that it allows us to identify key skills that a boxer should learn next, helping the boxer to develop. So if I'm a boxing coach, I can develop a lesson specifically on that key skill, instead of just hoping that my boxer will learn it naturally through sparring. For instance, if I want my boxer to learn how to counter the right hand, they haven't been doing it correctly, and I've identified that on the rubric as a skill that they must learn, I'll be able to send out our next training session, or even a week or two of training, around them avoiding a right hand on the mitts or in sparring, and working on different various counters for the right hand. Likewise, it will also help us to avoid reteaching skills that a boxer might already know. And this will help a boxer to avoid that feeling that they're plateauing or they're not really getting anywhere. We can communicate explicit learning goals for a boxer to achieve in a training session. This is really useful because it allows them to keep track of their progress, and that is motivating. So, as an example, I've shown you already the picture of my document based on the sparring video I've analyzed. In 6 months' time, maybe I'll film another sparring video and I'll mark what I've learned. I want to see how I've improved. If I use that same document, then I'm effectively keeping a map of my learning up to that point, and it's motivating to see the progress I've made written down on paper. It's there for me, it's tangible, and I can take that in. Last but not least, this tool is really useful because it allows us to focus our teaching on different skills in every training session. I touched on this point already. This allows us to stop our sessions from falling into monotonous routines where we might have our boxers coming in, doing their warm-up on the skipping rope, doing a few rounds on the bag, maybe a little bit of mitt work, some push-ups and some crunches, and then heading home. Instead, we can actually work on some real technical specifics in each session to keep them interesting and to make sure that our boxers are progressing in every session. There are also some other purposes and uses to this assessment tool that I thought could be handy. For example, if I'm an amateur boxer and I can find some tape on an opponent that I know that I'm fighting, or even a pro fight, if I'm a professional fighter, then I might be able to actually make an assessment of that potential opponent, and that'll give me an idea of what they're capable of and also what they might need to learn or where their weaknesses lie. And this gives me some really crucial information, allowing me to develop a strategy. And this is not necessarily an intended purpose of the assessment tool, but if I'm a gambling man, I might even assess two boxers against the rubric who are about to fight and mark them against the level descriptions. So I might see that one boxer is at an intermediate level where the other is at a more competent level. One boxer might be an advanced or a proficient boxer, and they might be up against an expert or a master boxer. This gives me, again, an idea of who's going to win the bout, and that can be a nice piece of information to know sometimes. So this concludes our first lesson, or the first video. And just to recap, the learning intentions were that by the end of this lesson you would be able to assess boxers, possibly including yourself if you're a boxer, using the assessment tool, and also to understand the different purposes and uses of the assessment tool and how it links to teaching and learning your boxing skills. I'll be doing the next video I'll be doing will be on linking the information we get from an assessment and how we can use that to further develop lesson plans or learn new skills as boxers. I hope to do a short clip on on each of those white boxes you've seen in the assessment tool. And that means if there's a skill that you need to learn, you'll be able to find the video that corresponds to that skill and then apply it to your training session. The success criteria to make sure that you've learned the intentions were that you would have assessed a boxer using the assessment tool. We practiced assessing a few boxers with the assessment tool together, but as a homework task, I'd like you to either watch a match of one of your favorite fighters and assess them using the assessment tool, or watch a clip of yourself, a student of yours, and assess them using the assessment tool. I will upload copies of the assessment tool somewhere. I'll post a link in the description in this YouTube video so that you'll be able to easily access it. What I want you to know is that at this current stage there's two rubrics, one for fundamental skills and one for the more advanced boxing principles. So if you're looking to assess yourself in this homework task, I would recommend, if you're a beginner, using the fundamental rubric, the fundamental skills assessment tool. If you feel like you're more advanced, you might want to use the boxing principles assessment tool. Thanks for watching, and I hope this video has been of interest to you. Please hit the subscribe button, I suppose, to keep updated on when the next video comes out. And yeah, I hope to have you as part of my audience again soon.